They say memory is a fickle thing. One minute you're convinced you've moved on from Saturday morning TV. The next you're humming a theme song you haven't heard since dial-up. But what if the shows you half remember were never truly gone? What if studio politics, licensing mix-ups, and plain bad luck shoved them into a dusty corner, only for revival rumors to start buzzing 2 decades later? Today we're digging up 7 cartoons that quietly vanished, yet keep refusing to die. Stick around, because one of them already slipped back onto a studio slate while nobody was looking. 2001 Cartoon Network, 22 minutes of mayhem packaged as grim and evil. Half the slot followed a Jamaican-accented reaper babysitting 2 chaotic kids. The other half starred a brain grafted onto a purple Russian bear plotting world takeover. Viewers loved the first half, the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy, so much that the network split the shows in 2003 and renewed the kid-friendly half for 6 seasons, 2 movies, and endless memes. The Ursine supervillain? Axed after just 13 episodes. The cancellation didn't bury Hector Karn forever. Adult Swim's checkered past, Retro Block began rerunning Evil Karn in December 2023, introducing the cult oddity to Night Owl Gen Z fans who thought it was brand new. Then in spring 2025, the crossover finale of Jellystone, Crisis on Infinite Mirths, directed by none other than Maxwell Adams, dragged Hector, Boscoff, and even Grimm himself into one multiverse-smashing cameo. The episode pulled a top 5 spot on Max's Weekly Kids chart, proof that Cartoon Network still sees brand value in its long-forgotten bear brain. So where's the reboot? Adams keeps teasing it. During a 2024 convention panel, he joked that his reboot Bible is finished and languishing on several exec desks. Feel free to tweet at them. Adult Swim reruns plus a high-profile cameo equal the kind of momentum networks love. Translation: the gate to Bunny Island isn't locked. It's merely waiting for the right key. But if you think a brain in a bear is strange, wait till you see a school built sideways by mistake. Nickelodeon's 2005 Canadian import Wayside adapted Louis Satcher's famously absurd books, yet many viewers swear it was just a one-off TV special. That's because the full series ran quietly on Teletoon, then aired sparingly on Nick before disappearing into DVD bargain bins. Today, physical discs fetch collector prices, while the show itself lives in blurry YouTube rips. Except, not for long. 2 separate youth theater troupes, one in Pennsylvania, another in Ohio, sold out summer 2025 performances of Sideways stories from Wayside School, reigniting nostalgia among Gen Alpha kids who never read the books. Meanwhile, a fan-curated Wayside wiki lists a 2024 to 25 CGI revival co-produced by Nelvana and Netflix, citing internal production logs that leaked last winter. Netflix's public catalog already houses the original series for regions outside the US. No official press release yet, but when both stage rights and streaming rights get warm at the same time, something is clearly percolating. And that sideways skyscraper of a school still delivers uncanny relatability. The new kid, the out-of-place feeling, the cranky teacher who literally levitates when she's angry. It's evergreen material. If a reboot lands, expect TikTok edits of Mrs. Jules turning students into apples to flood your For You page faster than you can shout Moorisha. Back in 1999, Angela Anaconda hit TV like a scrapbook that had learned to move. The show's cut-out heads, real kid photos glued onto pencil-thin bodies, made it an instant oddity. Viewers either cackled or recoiled, and many simply changed the channel. Ratings limped through 3 seasons before Fox Family scrapped the series in 2001. End of story, or so it seemed. Fast forward 2 decades, short-form video apps reward anything visually jarring, and Angela's paper doll scowl is jarring perfection. By July 2025, the hashtag #AngelaAnacondaReaction alone clocked 13.9 million posts, with creators lip-syncing the show's nasal theme or stitching its most nightmare-fuel frames into jump-cut comedy. Clips of Angela berating arch-rival Nanette Manoir now rack up more views per week than the cartoon ever managed in its prime. Gen Z viewers, raised on filters and deepfake face swaps, call the style proto-AI, praising its unintentional surrealism. The renewed buzz caught industry eyes. A Canadian production report leaked last December lists Angela 2.0 as an exploratory project, evaluating motion capture cutout hybrid techniques. Insiders say the pitch frames Angela as a teen vlogger dealing with the horrors of influencer life, a premise only the early internet's most polarizing art style could sell. No green light yet, but when a dormant IP moves almost 14 million TikTok tags without spending a marketing dime, execs tend to pick up the phone. and the discourse keeps mutating. Media scholars debate whether Angela's pasted-on smiles predicted today's face filter fatigue, while fan artists weaponize AI tools to reanimate episodes in 60 frames per second smoothness, then ironically add VHS static to keep it creepy. The show that felt too weird to live may have been exactly weird enough to live forever. But Angela's glitchy mug wasn't the only voice from the past that technology couldn't quite silence. Next up, the middle school robot who spoke like your dad's Macintosh vanished after 2 seasons and sparked a 20-year hunt for lost audio. When Cartoon Network asked fans to vote on 10 new pilots during the 2000 Big Pick Marathon, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy won with 57%. Second place, at 23%, went to Whatever Happened to Robot Jones, enough for a series order in 2002. Creator Greg Miller doubled down on a gimmick no other kids show had tried. Robot Jones literally was a computer voice. Season 1 lines came straight from a Macintosh text-to-speech program, giving every syllable a pleasant 1980s whir. Wikipedia still notes the swap. The first season voice was created with Macintosh TDS. Beginning with Season 2, Cartoon Network executives ordered a redub by child actor Bobby Block. Some viewers liked the cleaner delivery, but purists cried sabotage. The awkward cadence was the joke. That argument never died. Forum threads swapped VHS rips hunting for the Mac-voiced originals, and Lost Media Wikis chronicle which episodes remain unaltered, which were taped over, and which might still be hiding on dusty hard drives. One 2018 update celebrated the recovery of higher quality audio for almost every Season 1 segment, noting only the short Electric Boogaloo still needs a clean rip. By late 2023, hobbyists even extracted the exact synth voice preset, Junior from Macintosh, and built a plugin to let fans dub Robot into new fan comics. Why the obsession? Beneath the vintage chirp was a surprisingly earnest coming-of-age story. Jones studied human quirks like a science lab, logging observations on gym class, facial hair, and crushes. In one episode, the Kidbots dissect pop music. In another, they test cafeteria cuisine like chemists. The humor landed somewhere between Schoolhouse Rock and early Peanuts, all scribbled in jagged pencil lines that looked photocopied from a 1980s math book. Yet network scheduling did the robot no favors. Season 2 aired Fridays at 11 p.m., when its target audience was asleep, and Cartoon Network canceled the show in November 2003. The finale never resolved whether Jones would master humanity or keep glitching forever, a cliffhanger that fuels petitions for closure even now. That closure might finally happen. In March 2025, the Robot Jones fandom discovered a line in a Warner Brothers trademark renewal filing extending the property through 2029. Usually a sign some form of content, however small, is under consideration. Pair that with ongoing lost audio hunts, and you get the sense the little robot still has homework left to hand in. Everyone remembers Tommy's screwdriver jailbreaks and Chucky's panic wheeze. Fewer remember the spin-off that tried to move the chaos down the hallway and into a classroom. Rugrats. Preschool Days put Angelica and Susie center stage and asked a risky question. What happens when the show's most opinionated cousin becomes the narrator of everyday school life? On paper, it made sense. Angelica was a force. Susie was her counterweight. Put them in a world with glue sticks, bulletin boards, and a teacher with a perma-smile, and you get a playground for tiny power struggles. The tone flipped from babies on epic quests to miniature politicians negotiating recess. Angelica lusted after the role with the biggest ribbon. Susie tried to raise the bar for everyone else. The stories were smaller by design. Picture day, class jobs, a talent show that felt bigger than Broadway if you were 4. Yet it never stuck. The original Rugrats survived on imagination as rocket fuel. The crib became a jungle, the hallway a desert, the backyard a moonwalk. Preschool Days traded fantasy for rules and routines. It asked you to laugh at forms on clipboards and snack time scandals. That's honest to childhood, sure, but the magic got quieter. The bright colors stayed, the music still bounced, but the feeling changed from adventure to agenda. The series count tells the real story. Only a handful of episodes ever surfaced. Blink and you miss them. Some viewers even thought they'd imagined it. The way you remember a dream that only exists as 3 hazy images. Angelica's smug grin, Susie's gentler stare, a teacher whose tone could melt granite. Try to hunt it down today, and you'll trip over message boards asking the same question. Did that show really happen? What makes Preschool Days fascinating is what it tried to solve. Angelica is iconic, but she's also prickly. The original show used her as comic friction, not as the emotional anchor. Moving her to the front meant turning a lovable menace into someone you could root for across an entire episode. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. When it did, You could see a blueprint for every later, reformed rival character in kids' TV. Sharp, competitive, secretly insecure, and evolving. When it didn't, you got a character study that felt like homework. And then silence. No steady rerun slot. No big marketing push. The spin-off drifted into the strange fog, where TV goes when contracts end and rights get complicated. Every so often, a clip will float across social media, usually Angelica fighting for the bestest chore, or Susie stepping in to untangle the mess, and comments fill up with a mix of disbelief and nostalgia. I thought I made this up. Wait, how many episodes were there? Why can't I stream this anywhere? Here's why the disappearance stings. Preschool Days tried to do something grown-up with the Rugrats universe. It asked whether a character famous for taking toys could learn to share the spotlight. It asked whether playground politics could be funny without becoming mean. And it hinted, just hinted, that Angelica's biggest battles weren't with other kids, but with the mirror. That's rich material. It deserved time to find its pace. If there's a second life waiting, it won't be through a massive rebrand. It'll be through curation. A mini collection dropped as a bonus, a limited reissue folded into a franchise anthology, a lost chapters tab that rewards fans for digging. Imagine a new audience watching those few episodes right after the classic ones. Suddenly the tonal experiment makes sense. You grow up with the babies. Then you graduate to hall passes and bulletin boards. Then you meet them again as middle schoolers. The arc snaps into place. For now, Preschool Days remains a case study in how even the strongest brands can misread what their own magic actually is. It turns out the screwdriver was never just a tool. It was a metaphor. Tiny hands opening impossible doors. Angels and devils living in the same cousin. And a classroom that, for a brief moment, tried to turn a famous troublemaker into a work in progress. Before the chorus hits, you already know the melody. If you ever watched Teen Titans, you've heard Puffy Amiyumi. The real-life Japanese duo delivered that gleefully explosive theme, then jumped into their own cartoon that felt like a sugar rush strapped to a tour bus. Hi Hi Puffy Amiyumi wasn't just another band show. It was a neon-bright culture bridge experiment, road stories, monster gigs, oddball stalker fan gags, and a manager who could weaponize paperwork. What made it pop was contrast. Ami was sunshine and sparkles. Yumi was leather and eye rolls. The writing leaned into that yin-yang, then pushed them into situations where both had to bend. Ami's optimism became strategy. Yumi's sarcasm morphed into loyalty. The humor swung from slapstick to sly, touching down on references most kids wouldn't get right away, but would giggle at anyway. And the soundtrack? Hooks for days. Even episode stingers felt like the start of a radio single. Then there were the live-action bookends. Between animated segments, the actual Ami and Yumi would appear. Sometimes they'd field fan mail. Sometimes they'd try an American snack with deep suspicion. Sometimes they'd pop into a rehearsal room and explode into laughter for no reason, except that it felt joyful. Those tiny windows did something unusual. They sold the idea that the cartoon was a friendly exaggeration of two people who really existed. The boundary melted. Kids met the band met the kids. So why isn't this the most rerun thing on Earth? Rights, timing, and the fickleness of catalogs. The show ran long enough to build a cult, short enough to leave people hungry. Certain episodes aired everywhere. Certain finales never landed in some regions. The international footprint felt lopsided, the kind of distribution jigsaw that turns collectors into detectives and makes casual viewers shrug. You can still find clips, songs, and DVD sets if you squint. But the friction is real, and friction is the enemy of nostalgia. What's wild is how the current formula feels. Two best friends balancing goofy dream jobs with weird grown-up problems? That's half the internet's favorite premise. Swap tour buses for content studios, rewrite the manager as an algorithm, and you've got the same core joke: art versus chaos versus brand. The show predicted stan culture without scolding it. It laughed at obsession, then held space for genuine admiration. It made being different and loud feel safe. There's a deeper reason people still whisper about a comeback. Puffy Amiyumi always doubled as a beginner's course in global pop. Bits of Japanese crept into reaction lines. Fashion cues flew past like confetti. Episode plots folded in cultural references without slowing down to explain them. It wasn't a lecture. It was exposure by osmosis. You absorbed it because it was fun. That matters in a world where kids jump from one platform to another in seconds. Attention follows novelty. Novelty follows mashups. This duo lived at the intersection. J-pop swagger inside a Western cartoon chassis, with enough personality to power a dozen GIFs before the title card even finished. Rewatch an episode and notice how efficiently it moves. Cold open, problem, banger, punchline, next. The pace is relentless in the best way. a blueprint for modern kids' TV that never stops tapping the snare. Could it return? Nothing about fandom is predictable, but everything about this brand is portable. Songs stream, clips travel, the characters remain instantly readable in a single frame. If a new version showed up tomorrow, a short-form burst here, a tour diary there, it wouldn't feel like a resurrection. It would feel like a band dropping a surprise EP and watching it take off. That's how music works. That's how cartoons work now too. And maybe that's the thread tying these forgotten shows together. They didn't disappear. They just changed formats. One became a meme. One became a stage play. One became a scavenger hunt for lost audio. One became an import you rediscover every few years and wonder why it isn't everywhere already. Each left a hook in your brain, and hooks have a habit of returning at the best and worst possible time. Long before random became a marketing buzzword, a freckled kid named Flapjack sailed onto Cartoon Network and proved that weird could be an art form. His world smelled like molasses and low tide, a floating city of warped docks, barnacle-encrusted barbers, and candy peddlers who smiled too wide. He was raised by Bubby, an overprotective talking whale, and mentored by Captain Knuckles, a self-described adventurer who'd sell his own peg leg for a gumdrop. Everything about the show tilted a few degrees off-center, as if the animators drew on a ship caught in slow motion. Episodes moved like fever dreams. 1 minute Flapjack skipped across a pier whistling. The next the camera punched into a hyper-detailed close-up of splintered wood or Knuckles' pustular nose. Those grotesque freeze frames shocked kids used to clean lines and pastel skies. Parents wrote complaint letters. Studio lawyers winced. But the audience? They leaned closer. The disgust was magnetic. Behind the helm stood Thurup Van Orman, a creator determined to test standards and practices until they actually said no. He treated the rulebook like a treasure map. Each red X marked a boundary begging to be crossed. Rumor says he once smuggled a background gag past censors by hiding it under an innocent-looking layer, only to peel the layer off in the final color pass. Whether the story's true hardly matters. The myth fits the mood. Flapjack's universe felt illicit, like a secret midnight carnival you shouldn't visit, but can't resist. Look deeper, and the madness clicks into place. At its core, the series tracks addiction. Knuckles' sweet-tooth fiends for maple-coated taffy the way pirates once craved rum. Flapjack tags along because he loves his friend, even as that friendship carries him into storms, scams, and near drowning inside a giant fish's stomach. The candy stands in for temptation, wanderlust, maybe even childhood itself. Too much and you rot, but the promise keeps you paddling. The aesthetic became a blueprint. J.G. Quintal, who storyboarded on Flapjack, later spun its off-kilter timing into regular show. Pendleton Ward soaked up the gross-out close-ups and unleashed them in Adventure Time. Rebecca Sugar absorbed the emotional whiplash, jokes that scraped against melancholy, and infused it into Steven Universe. If you've laughed at a surreal sight gag on modern animation, chances are the echo leads back to Stormalong Harbor. Yet reruns are scarce. Licensing knots, music cue contracts, and a small mountain of hand-painted textures make remastering pricey. Meanwhile, Van Orman teases fans with blurry photos of secret feature pitch documents and cryptic captions like, "Still steering the ship. Stay salty." He recently wrapped directing duties on a big-budget animated film no one can name yet. Insiders swear one of the post-credit stingers involves a boy, a whale, and a map to Candied Island. Maybe a cameo, maybe a soft launch. The network won't comment. That silence is louder than any press release. For now, Flapjack lives in GIFs that freeze on those infamous horror zoom-ins, and in whispers among storyboard artists who call the show Animation Grad School. Kids who grew up clutching the remote during those jump cuts now run studios. They remember the thrill. They remember that a cartoon once made them mutter, "What the heck did I just see?" Then they rewind to watch again. If a comeback happens, expect it to double down rather than tone down. Nostalgia likes polish, but Flapjack's magic was the splinter under the nail. Abrasive, unforgettable. In an era where everything streams in 4K gloss, maybe the next boundary pusher needs sea spray grit and a dash of splintery terror to remind us that comfort zones are overrated. Scroll back through the wreckage and patterns emerge. A bear with a villain's brain survives through crossovers. A crooked 30-story school tricks TikTok into rereading a decades-old novel. A cutout girl with a paper face becomes the accidental mascot for glitch culture. A Macintosh monotone inspires a 2-decade hunt for lost lines. 2 preschool politicos prove even toddlers can tackle character arcs. A J-pop duo sneaks global pop into after-school snack time. And a whale-raised boy shows that nausea and wonder can share a frame. Each property dipped below the surface, then bobbed back up wearing a new disguise, Meme, stage script, limited run DVD, leaked pilot, cryptic tweet. The cycle says something about us. We label shows forgotten, the moment executives shelve them. But memory isn't stored in network vaults. It's scattered across hard drives, hashtags, and half-remembered theme songs. The more fragments we collect, the louder the echo becomes, until a studio notices the echo and turns it into a pitch deck. So the next time an algorithm hands you a blurry clip of a cartoon you barely recall, pause before you swipe. That clip could be the spark that resurrects an entire universe. Because in 2025, nostalgia isn't passive. It's participatory. We are the focus group, the archivist, the hype engine, the DMN cavalry charging into boardrooms armed with retweets and reaction videos. Which buried cartoon do you think is moments away from its encore? Drop the title in the comments. One lost pilot, one fuzzy VHS rip, one runaway meme. Sometimes that's all it takes to wake a sleeping whale and set sail for Candied Island once more.